so hopefully, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, that was, yeah, I had two instances and that was the issue. I think we're all running perfectly now. And let's begin. So, who have we got on the call?
Let's see. My name is Nate Mail. I am presently a member of the Phonon DAO. That's my current title, I suppose. Previously, I was in charge of the Phonon implementation team at Grid Plus, and pending a vote, I will likely be the leader of the Phonon DAO.
Incredible. Thank you. It's honestly, it's a pleasure to have you on. I've wanted to speak with Phonon for a very long time.
It's great to be here.
And yeah, thank you. Super. Right, so just to dive into it, many people who would be listening to this call might not be familiar with Phonon. And so what is Phonon? And could you give us like a short introduction?
Yeah, certainly. Phonon is a hardware secured crypto asset transfer protocol. Basically, the idea is instead of doing a crypto asset transfer by calling up a blockchain and letting them know that you'd like to transfer something, uh, Phonon works a little bit differently where keys are stored on a secure device where they're generated, and then you can get a address for those keys, and then you send assets to the keys on that secure device. And then to transfer the assets, what happens is a secure channel or using asymmetric cryptography, you can transfer those keys from one secure device to another, basically removing the need for a blockchain interaction during the process of transferring value from one person to another.
That's great. So we can now introduce the idea of a bearer instrument. So what what Phonon allows you to do is to move your private keys within. So you're saying that you like wrap your coins or your private keys within this device.
I don't like to use the term wrapping for it because that generally implies, a complicated smart contract system. What happens is you generate a private key on a secure device. You have no access to that private key until the time that it is removed from that device permanently, and then you send assets to the address associated with that private key. At that point, you can send that private key from one secure device to another, if that makes sense. So you can think of it as
Yeah.
a wrapping, but it's not exactly that complicated.
Okay. That is pretty interesting. I would like to then ask. This does seem different than something like a ledger. Then, so in the past couple of days, we've been hearing that Ledger could make this new firmware update where they're able to like pull people's private keys out of their hardware wallets. So Phonon doesn't do that.
It generates new private keys for each. We we call a lot of different things phonon, but in this case, I'm saying phonon is an individual, asset key. So for each private key, or for each phonon, it generates its own private key that is used for that, not for that transaction, but it's think of it like cash, where they mint cash and you have $100 bill and you hand it to someone and that person has it. Um, so it's not like Ledger, which you'd think of as like a bank account. It's a totally different kind of system.
Right. In fact, so when I was doing I was a part of the Phonon testnet. It was a few months ago, and to me, it kind of seemed like it was as if hardware wallets could communicate with each other.
Yes.
It was this protocol. Yeah. Right. And that is something that I don't think is really in the space at all. I did a bit of research into other bearer or cryptographic bearer instruments, and I could only find a few examples. So I found Concash, which is like they have this chip and it's like embedded into a bill, and you're able to exchange these bills and they have crypto on them. But that was really the only closest example that I could find, and to my knowledge, I haven't seen any working examples of that yet.
Is that a serious project? That's not like an art project. That's something that people want to. I'm sorry to be a dick, but like, isn't it the complete reverse of what we're trying to do?
Right. It did have qualities of a gimmick, but yeah, I don't know too much about it.
It does a worse version of one of the very basic use cases that we've imagined for Phonon, wherein you put Phonons on a device and then you just hand the device to someone else and you've transferred it, but then they don't have the digital transferability aspect of it that we have.
Exactly, and that is one of the most interesting aspects that I would like to discuss.
Certainly.
So Phonons, once they're on your device, they're paired, I'm assuming, with a mobile phone, or can they be paired with a laptop? How does that work?
The idea is it's going to be anything that can communicate with the device. So right now, the only implementation we're working on right now is a card that you can plug into a card reader that's available on Amazon for $10, and you can send it to a computer. These cards, very similar card that wouldn't require that much in the way of changes to our software that we run on them, uses NFC, where you could do it via a phone, and then once you've gotten the encrypted packets onto a phone or computer, then you can really transfer them in any way you want. One of the very basic ones we're going to do is QR code on the phone, where it's encrypted and then encoded into a QR code so that somebody else with their phone can scan that QR code, tap their Phonon card to their phone, and then receive that that asset.
That's great. And then I suppose using this, you've said that Phonons, you could send crypto into them, and I'm assuming any kind of crypto can be sent into a Phonon device. Is that correct?
Yeah, as long as it's a key that we can generate.
Right. And looking into your documentation, I think it was you only signed SEC P256K1. You're only capable of
at
of
present
signing.
moment. I don't know the exact name of the other type, but there's another one that's coming soon as the cards support it, and we'll be able to support anything else for any other secure backend we implement Phonon on would be able to support whatever it supports.
That's really cool. In which instance, so a decentralized exchange becomes possible, or like exchange of crypto outside of let's say online platforms then becomes possible?
Yes, absolutely.
Does Phonon DAO have any plans of building such a thing?
Where the first use case we're going for is just a person-to-person transfer. I want to buy an Xbox. I go on Craigslist, meet up with the person, and say, all right, here's $200 worth of Phonon, and then we transfer it, and it's offline. It can be anywhere, whatever. Beyond that, there are plenty of other services that we have that we're kind of loosely thinking about doing in the future. And Exchange is certainly one of them, though we don't quite have the bandwidth to do that right now.
Oh, that's great. I think that the project itself is fairly well positioned because, like in the past week or 2 weeks, we've had this MICA legislation or framework or whatever, and, they're putting some pretty stringent rules, at least within the EU, about CASP, like crypto asset service providers, and that includes like crypto to crypto exchanges, crypto to fiat. Like it's very all-encompassing, and so like devices like this would probably, I think people would be very interested in that.
Yeah, certainly.
So let's jump into governments. What exactly, how many members of the DAO exist? How does the DAO operate?
Let me see if I can get the numbers up real quick. Yeah, so the DAO is governed by holders of the Phonon DAO governance token. Um, Sorry, I'm pulling something up on my computer at the same time, and I can't talk and chew gum simultaneously. Yeah, so it's governed by members of the. It's governed by holders of the token. You know, one token equals one vote. Um, and of course, where I'm storing this is not loading.
The token ERC20 token. It's Phonon, Phonon. We use Snapshot for the voting. We have a discourse where we propose governance proposals, and then we have a multi-sig that's job is just to execute the proposals that are voted on.
That's
Pretty straightforward, really.
indeed. That's brilliant. It's exactly what ZecHub uses. We have the snapshot, and it works. And yeah, just to point out that it's really impressive that Phonon has decided to move directly into this like DAO governance model. In an earlier conversation with Decred, it was very evident that the reason behind its longevity and success is it's like totally it's all to do with the governance and having decentralized governance. Yeah, very well done on that.
Yeah, it's a real exciting opportunity to take a powerful technology and really just say this belongs to whoever wants it to happen. It's also a hurdle. I'm not going to lie. Like right now, there's maybe 20, 25 people who are actively I can get in touch with every day and say, hey, there's something about Phonon that we need to talk about and need to do. But I feel like as this product gets more into the finished stage and more people hear about it and get excited, because look, we're going to need developers for a DEX, and that's something that you could buy into just by buying Phonon token and saying, hey, we want to make a DEX, so let's vote on this thing and make it happen.
Exactly. In fact, I believe that's exactly what Decred did. Yeah, I'm very happy to see that. I would like to perhaps dive a bit more into the privacy aspects of Phonon and how that would work. So this is we're ZecHub. This is a Zcash initiative. We do like educational material that we produce. And so part of the reason why I reached out to Clamato, who's it's really cool. Part of the reason why I reached out to Phonon is because I believe that it does have some properties that would allow people some level of freedom with their financial and social freedoms as well. So yeah, could you guys explain how exactly does Phonon, or how could Phonon provide privacy?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, you have to do an on-chain transaction to lock up an asset into a Phonon on the secure hardware. And then once that on-chain transaction happens, you can transfer it between as many people as you want, over as long of a time frame as you want, and you can just keep transferring it. And then the next time it'll show up on chain is when somebody redeems it on chain by extracting that, by caching in the Phonon, basically deleting the private key off of the secure hardware and exposing it to whatever device you're using to interface with it. And then you can make an on-chain transaction using that key to bring those assets back into your back onto your main wallet, akin to putting cash in the bank. So much like cash, anything that happens between getting some from the bank and putting it back in the bank could be anyone, could be anywhere, and there's no way for anyone to track it or tell what it is unless they do it in a way that can be tracked.
Right. And yeah, that is quite intriguing. So something that would interest a lot of this is something that would interest a lot of transparent chains. So I'm thinking like Bitcoin or Ethereum. People could then take their Bitcoin or Ethereum like offline. They could bring it into their Phonon device, transfer it between other Phonon devices completely offline and on a different network, like between Bluetooth connections, and then bring them back on chain so they could redeem the phonons after however many swaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's super interesting for transparent chains. But something that I found, like Zcash already has like very secure privacy on chain. So there, like, why the question came up of why would any Zcashers be interested in this type of device? Like, what does it provide? And I did find that, you know, if this device was used, of course, like people could be able to make off-chain swaps of Zcash, but because it's off-chain, what happens is the funds, the on-chain funds themselves, actually remain within the shielded pool for a longer period of time, and so this does it like compounds the level of privacy that those on-chain funds like received. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
Yeah,
I think another
it was
fun
incredible.
fact, another fun aspect of Phonon existing in the world is that basically on an open blockchain, anything with two transactions is plausibly deniable as a Phonon, right? Like
Correct.
it's just it kind of breaks a whole layer of the network analysis that they've been doing. And I think that that alone, just the fact that it exists, creates a whole bunch of hurdles for people who are trying to, be all up in your business.
Right. And it also allows really transfer, like value transfer, in places or like within conditions. If there's a project called Access Now. If you guys aren't following them on Twitter, I highly recommend it. And they make these like research reports on the amount of internet shutdowns that are occurring across the globe. And like every time I read their newest report, it's just more and more. And so like the first thing it seems governments will do to like repress or like repress the population is to shut down the internet. And so like the people who are stuck in these regions can't receive any money, and something like Phonon would allow like offline value transfer.
Yeah, that's one of the things that that and the privacy, like the no double spend and the privacy and the offline nature are the kind of the three pillars of the things we're not willing to compromise on when it comes to building the and designing the protocol. And I think like one of the interesting early use cases for me would be like people who are doing, I don't know, auction houses, or like you go to a house auction, repo auctions and such, and it's like instead of having to go to the bank, get a cashier's check and make that same day payment, you can have 200 grand on a phone on card for one day, make that swap, and then like you've removed a whole layer of the banking system from our ability to interact with people with large volumes financially.
Right. In fact, this
And
does bring up something I was pretty interested in. So the hardware itself, these are puff chips.
Yes.
So it's like the kind of chip that you have on your credit card or debit card.
It's not even the kind of chip, it's the same chip.
Right. It's the exact same chip. And these run Java applets.
Yes.
And so like the security, I'm not too like really knowledgeable with the in-depth security, but one of the attacks that came up was like some kind of electron microscope thing where they they find the private keys with a big magnifying glass or something. Is that accurate?
I've never seen evidence of that actually occurring out in the wild. People claim that it's theoretically possible, though I haven't seen it.
Okay. Right, that's pretty interesting. I would also like to ask, Phonon itself, is it an offshoot project from Grid Plus, or how did it come about?
Phonon is an independent DAO that was spawned from Grid Plus. However, um, let's see. I have to be careful about my words here.
there, I can speak a little more freely.
Go
The
ahead.
intention was always to like Grid Plus had the initial idea and provided some of the initial development. Like Nate used to work at Grid Plus, so the team that we have, it started at Grid Plus.
Right.
The intention was always to remove Grid Plus from this. I know that so our token was created by burning existing Grid tokens, which were sold I don't know, a bunch of years ago by Grid Plus. As a part of that, the Grid Plus ownership, basically they burned a huge amount of the Grid tokens that they held prior to Phonon becoming the thing, and then all the existing remaining Grid tokens were spun into Phonon tokens, or are to be spun into Phonon tokens.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
that's exactly. I think that's how many people found the project is because you were checking on your Grid Plus and there was a contract address change or something, and like suddenly it's turned into Phonon. But it is very impressive that like the expertise that went into creating the Grid Plus lattice is also applied because like it's the safeguards, right?
Yeah. It's the same hardware as
And
the safeguards currently.
yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think that did cover like most of the questions. I do have to ask. So I think I took part in the alpha testnet. And is there a beta testnet
Yeah,
on the
there is
way?
a beta testnet on the roadmap. We're not quite there yet, so I can't give you any exact time frames. Hopefully within the next 6 or 7 months. And also on the agenda, we're planning a mobile app so that you can get the QR code or Bluetooth-based transfers.
That's really cool. And I did also see in the Discord, if you guys aren't, if you haven't joined the Discord yet, I think it's discord.gg/phonon.
Yep.
So jump in there. And yeah, I did see quite a while ago that there was this eCash proposal made because Phonon would actually be able to provide all the properties like off chain, and it wouldn't require final settlement on blockchain. Are you guys still pursuing the eCash thing?
We're not specifically pursuing eCash at the moment. However, if what we make turns out to be perfectly in line with what eCash already is, then we would have no problem allowing Phonon to be used for eCash purposes. Though
Right.
if though the eCash kind of specifics are a little bit light on the proposals that have been put out there. So until they have a solid concrete proposal or request for proposal out there, we're not going to try to actively pursue it since it may be a moving target and it may require
Yeah.
compromising our core values.
Indeed, indeed. I did recently see the NIM Technologies. They created. They recently published a paper. Like, if you haven't seen it, please do check it out. I think it's linked at the bottom of my article. So if you head to free2z.cash/scribbles, at the bottom of my recent article, you'll find the NIM Technologies. I think they're trying to do it with like ZK. Like ZK proofs and whatnot. It was really difficult to understand.
That sounds difficult to understand.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I like
Right.
Phonon is it's very simple compared to a lot of the smart contract stuff out there.
Right. Yeah. It is simple works and it's robust as well. Like having the different options of like either connecting via Bluetooth or NFC, like it's really agile. It could do a lot. So yeah, I guess we could keep it short. Thank you everyone for joining. Did you guys have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure, and we should have the recording of this up on YouTube fairly soon.
Fantastic.
Super. Thanks everyone.